Hello there, it's Sam here at EFT Now, and I'm going live on Candida and Leaky Gut from a meta health perspective. So I'm just going to share this in a few groups quickly. Bear with me. Find my live call. Okay, I'm going to share it. My good. And I'm going to share it on my personal page. Okay, so join a couple of people to the group so I can join the call. Okay, hi Mark, how you doing? Good to see you here. So, yes, welcome to everyone who's here or watching in the replay of this, whether it's on Facebook or Steam It or anywhere else that I end up putting this. So it's my first live stream for a while, and I'm looking forward to sharing some information with my trusty high-tech gear here. And we're going to be looking at a rather popular condition that's out there. Seems to be a lot of people are having symptoms to do with these diagnoses at the moment, and they often seem to go together. They can be separate, of course, and there's many. I mean, Candida seems to be a real sort of endemic thing that's happening to a lot of people. They're certainly it seems to be being blamed for all sorts of health conditions out there, and I'm going to give a different perspective on those conditions tonight. And I think it's really interesting with leaky gut and candida together, because they often seem to go together, and the candida seems to come first, followed by, and there's even some theories out there that the candida is causing the leaky gut. So we'll come on to the actual conditions, the diagnoses in a bit. First of all, I just want to go through some principles from meta health. And so meta health at its core is a philosophy which is based on some very well-researched biology and how the body and brain actually work in coherence with each other. And it's all about how different tissues in the body actually show symptoms based on whatever's happening, based on particular belief systems or specific events that have happened, which the individual wasn't able to deal with effectively at the time, and then they went into a particular kind of stressful situation. And the most important thing about the understandings from meta health is that, unlike conventional medicine, where anything that's happened in the body is seen as a mistake or a malfunction, actually these symptoms that are happening in the body tissues, or they can be happening in the brain as well, in the case of the behavior patterns, these are actually biological adaptations by the body designed to try and sort out whatever the problem is. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are successful or even logical adaptations, but it's the body adapting based on the, it's kind of based on how we evolved, and these might have been solutions in the past when we were when we were living more wild and in nature, compared to the more kind of captured and restrained existence that we have as no longer wild beings, and also out of sync. If you think about our biology in terms of our gut microbiome is also very different than it would have been in the wild now, because we've had things like antibiotics in our lives, chlorinated water, and lots of things which had a purpose and, you know, do save lives in many situations. However, they've carried a toll on us biologically, and so we're no longer living wild. We're no longer in our natural state, and that can cause things to become out of balance. Now, here's my advanced technology, because I can't share the screen and be on screen at the same time. This is a healing cycle in Meta Health, and this is actually a full cycle that the body goes through many times a day in all sorts of different ways, and it's got two parts to it. There's stress, which is the first bit, raised energy. The intention of this part is to actually resolve something that's going on in the body. Then you've got an acceptance point, which doesn't necessarily mean that the situation is resolved, but it does mean that some form of acceptance has happened, and that can be a resigned acceptance, like, oh, this is my lot now, for example, which still is begrudging, but it can be either that, or it can be a happy acceptance. So then you go into regeneration, you become very tired. This is often, in many cases, when symptoms actually start to appear. Then you have what's known as a healing peak. A lot of, in holistic therapies, this is often known as a healing crisis, but we call it healing peak because it's not a crisis, it's a stress test of the body to see if, in a wild biological way, you're actually at the ability to go back and join the herd. So then you've got, and welcome to everyone who's joining, great to see you here. So we've then got the, after this is the second stage, which is regeneration, part B, and this is really when things start to leave the body. Lots of things like mucus might leave the body, excess water, things like that might leave the body at this stage, and then you come back to equilibrium. And in a normal cycle, that can happen. It's happening naturally. Very simple one is your daily pattern. You wake up in the morning. Once you wake up, you're stressed just by the nature of actually awakening, and then you go. This is actually when you would go to sleep. So you've been more stressed during the day than you are hopefully at night when you go to sleep. And go to sleep, go maybe into a very tired deep sleep to begin with. This, I guess this could represent a dream or something like that, and then you're going into lighter sleep, and then waking up hopefully feeling refreshed. But in terms of health, you can get stuck in this process, and you can get stuck either in the stress phase or you can get stuck in the regeneration phase at some point. That happens if you've had an acceptance of something that's happened in your life, but you haven't actually resolved the initial stressful event, stressful belief system that's holding this in place. So what actually happens when a specific emotional event, we call them eudin, unexpected, dramatic, isolating, no strategy to deal with it. That's what's happening at this starting point. And so in that moment, you froze in that time. It could be for a split second. Someone said a shocking word, something you weren't expecting, and you froze because you didn't have. Oh, okay. Thanks, Bernice. Sound goes down when I have the poster in front of my mouth, so I hold it up here and see how that goes. It makes sense, really. So yeah, so at the start, so you go into stress to try and resolve the situation. The body goes into stress. At that moment, you get an energetic shock in the heart. The heart then relays it to the brain. 4 different brain relays, all connected to different body tissues based on embryonic development. But very broadly, you've got the brain stem, which is to do with core survival stuff. You've got the cerebellum. These are all developed. This is in the order they develop in the embryo. You've got the cerebellum, which is to do with integrity and protection, being attacked. Then you've got the cerebral medulla, the third layer, which is to do with your structure and your strength and your ability to withstand. And it represents in your life very often your self-esteem in particular different ways. And then you've got the cerebral cortex, which is the last part of the brain to develop as an embryo, and that's attached to really your interface with the outside world. So largely it's your skin, basically, and that is, so things that are happening in the skin are related to that cerebral cortex, and they tend to be things like separation conflicts or wanting to be separate from, having your boundaries tested, those sorts of things. So, okay, so we're going to now talk about Candida overgrowth. One more thing I want to mention before that is you've got phases in every disease cycle or every healing cycle: the stress and the regeneration broadly. And you've either got 2 aspects. You've either got tissue growing or tissue reducing, and those are called cell plus if it's growing, or cell minus if it's reducing. Now, in things that happen in the brain stem, the cell plus happens during the stress phase, and the cell minus happens in the regeneration phase, tissue being broken down and releasing from the body. Hi, Jenny. Then we've got, sounds going in and out, might be because of me doing that, so I will try to remember not to. The cell minus is happening in the regeneration phase. That's in the brainstem and the cerebellum. In the medulla and the cerebral cortex, so that's the self-esteem stuff and the separation conflict stuff, you've got cell minus in the stress phase and cell plus, tissue growing, in the regeneration phase. And the other really interesting thing to go with that is that we view microbes as having a biological role and supporting the body either to build up tissue or to break it down and actually remove it from the body. And that always happens in the regeneration phase when an example of that is Candida. So I'm going to talk about the Candida first, because Candida is an organism which not everybody knows is essential in the body's microbiome, as all of the things are. But the trouble is, like many of these organisms, it's opportunistic, and it can look for an opportunity. I mean, it's not consciously doing this, of course. Well, who knows what a Candida is thinking about? But they are looking, basically, when the system is out of balance, then they have an opportunity to get out of hand themselves, and that's happening with many people now because basically our microbiomes are out of whack because we've had antibiotics and chlorinated water and many different things throughout our lives. There are all sorts of toxins happening which put the bacteria out of sync in our bodies, and that's fine. Candida being a yeast, not a bacteria, of course. So what happens with Candida, for it to become out of hand, means that someone needs to actually be stuck in this regeneration phase. So symptoms are often that people are tired, they smell, for example, can have smelly, different extremities of the body, this would be in the regeneration phase B, as the body's trying to expel the organisms and the breakdown of tissue, and it comes out can come out as a smell. And the reason, so the biological and emotional root cause that's allowed Candida the Candida is trying to break down the tissue growth in the organs are basically the lower parts of the gut. So what we're looking at here is the colon mucosa, intestines, or the rectum mucosa, and basically we're looking at sort of emotional states such as hurt, resentment. It starts out as hurt and resentment if it's starting quite high up in the gut, and the deeper down into the gut it goes, the more angry and resentful and dirty the conflict is. And to the point where if it's in the rectum mucosa, it is generally to do with some sort of grudge. And by this stage that this has happened, that you're in the regeneration phase, there's been some sort of acceptance, and I'm going to suggest that that's often going to be a resignation, and it's something that you can't leave behind, something that felt when it happened like it was a real life or death situation that you can't get you can't let go of, and to do with feeling that something's repugnant. It could be that you feel you're repugnant yourself, something disgusting happened that you just couldn't let go of, that metaphorically is a big pile of muck, or feels like your insides were ripped out, or something that's revolting, disgusting, that you can't leave behind, even if you've accepted it. So you've ended up in this regeneration phase, but it's this is my lot kind of thing, rather than a full regeneration if the Candida is growing sort of out of sync. So now the thing about that in its own right is something, and if you are able to actually resolve the emotional root cause of this and it's actually a biological root cause, because it's the body trying to adapt, and the Candida are there trying to break down the excess tissue that was built in the gut, in that part of the gut, by the body to try and improve the excretory function, is the biological meaning for it, which, like I said, it's not necessarily logical, but it's biological. It's the body making its best attempt. So if you're able to find the initial event which led to the stress around the grudge, and actually release it, as well as the theme of life which made this an issue for you. So it could be feeling that you might feel trapped by the circumstance that happened, that you just can't get rid of this disgusting thought, feeling, or experience, whatever it was that happened. It could be someone did something that you couldn't forgive and you just can't forgive. So those are the sorts of things that could be holding excess Candida in place, even if you've I've accepted it happened, but I still deep down haven't forgiven. So I'm in this, I'm stuck with the Candida, basically. So leaky gut is coming from a separate UDIN, a separate conflict in the body. It might be that it might look like the Candida has actually caused the leaky gut, and that's one of the theories out there. However, it's definitely a separate conflict. It's happening in the submucosa, which is another one of the tissue layers, but this one is a structural layer. So it's actually relating to the self-esteem, the strength and strength of the body, and the ability to withstand. And the reason it could often follows when this acceptance has happened and you've gone into the regeneration phase is that it's all about your own ability, like not meeting expectations. What if I can't do this? Maybe feeling that nobody helps you, that you've been about your self-esteem being treated badly in some way. So you're treated badly, and even once you've had that acceptance, it becomes this, why does this always happen to me? I can't manage that. It's a real I'm not good enough at quite a deep level. Fear that you're not going to meet expectations. So the leaky gut part is actually the tissue thinning in that area, which then causes the various symptoms of leaky gut. Someone pointed out a very interesting thing in my Facebook group, that a suggestion that leaky gut isn't a real thing. And well, actually, I just want to point out from a mental health perspective, none of the labels are a real thing, because they're handy to have that diagnosis because it gives something to start with. But when you think about what's going on in people when they've got they've been diagnosed with a condition, they've got a range of symptoms going on, and it'll be a different range of symptoms affecting them in a different way for each one. You see that in many situations, and I'm sure leaky gut is one of those as well. It's a convenient categorization just to tell people something that's going on, in the same way as something like ME, fibromyalgia. They categorize things as far as they can go, but people's individual experience of them is different. So we have to look deeper and find the specific reasons for each symptom. And so just going back, if someone is with what's called leaky gut and has candida overgrowth, they've got two different healing cycles going on, and they're in the stress phase for the leaky gut, and they're in the regeneration phase for the one which is candida overgrowth. So that's why they can be feeling both. They could probably be feeling tired and wired, so stressed out. Self-esteem is a massive one for these people because they've had that knock, they're bearing that grudge, they've got the resentment, and it's making them feel bad about themselves. So, it's okay. So that's interesting. Thanks, Helen, saying that Sun has both, and it's just looking for these things which might be in place where, in some ways not feeling good about himself, and maybe something that he feels resentful for. And remember, they're not always massive things. Small things to small people can trigger big reactions happening. So, so what's actually happening here is by having some sort of resolution, the way forwards is quite interesting, because all of these health conditions, all of these symptoms that are being expressed in people, try not to say people have, language comes out, of course, because we are limited by language, but it's really, they are going through a healing process, and sometimes they get stuck, and some guidance can be useful to support them with that. And of course, the resolutions are fully letting go of whatever caused the grudge is one part of that. And in terms of the leaky gut, letting go of the original specific event which has led to them feeling bad about themselves in some way, and all these things about I don't meet expectations, I'm treated badly, I can't manage that, whatever they are. And also, so releasing the theme so that then the self-esteem can improve. And that's a really important thing with everything from mental health. Within the symptom lies the evolution, so the ability to move on and become more of who you desire to be, or meant to be, or living on purpose. So we've got, in this case, it could be, I certainly don't like to force forgiveness, but forgiveness could be a way through, if forgiveness actually arises naturally by resolving the issue that led to the grudge. And that could be a resolution for the candida. The building of the self-esteem and feeling good about yourself is specifically related to the universe working out for you and being able to love and accept yourself as you are the could resolve and take someone through the leaky gut process, and so that completes. So it's like it's completing a cycle. In this case, completing 2 cycles. And there's, of course, there's the emotional work to do and resolving the limiting beliefs and the emotional blocks. And there's also many more things you can do. Now, there's some great symptom treatments out there for candida, and so it's looking and finding the ones that feel right and using them to support while basically carrying out the work is a great thing. You can have real life sort of social solutions where actually no emotional work such as tapping needs to happen. It can just be opportunities where something happens where it really does release the limitation, change the belief. Forgiveness happens naturally, for example. That might be one. Or they manage to achieve something doing that builds their self-esteem. They realise that they are able to fulfil expectations, and their body and the universe are in flow and working for them. So there's natural solutions as well as doing the emotional work, and that's the beauty, is the healing can come from many different angles, so long as it completes the cycle. I think it's important to understand the root cause, because if you heal from another way, then you just find that, okay, so you might release the symptoms for a while. However, perhaps another aspect of that root cause could manifest as a different symptom in your life, or the old symptom might come back again when you get triggered by something else, which basically restarts the healing process from that UDIN once again. So people get re-triggered throughout their life, which is why conditions seem to come and go. So, yeah, so, okay, yeah, Bernice has just said really nicely, if we see the other person doing their best, even though it's not good enough, and think of things we've done to accidentally upset others, it's easier to let go. Yeah, that certainly resonates with me. I've got a big theme in my life of quite happily going around my business and thinking that I'm doing good things, and then people end up getting upset, and that's been one of my big sort of patterns in my life. So okay, so basically those are the things that you can do. The opportunity is to evolve into a different, stronger, better self-esteem version of yourself, and maybe possibly could be to do with forgiveness or freedom from whatever the conflict that you just couldn't release might have been. Now, of course, these things are specific to the individual, so you can take many different meanings from all of these, and one way to really explore that is with meta health analysis. Naturally, I'm available for meta health analysis and ongoing meta health treatment plans, and I can do the emotional aspect with EFT, matrix reimprinting, all sorts of other goodies, and so it's a full holistic healing to look at this condition. It is one that's coming up for a lot of people, and there are, like I said, there's many great symptom treatments out there. Resolving the root cause is where it's at if you want to use this as an opportunity to expand your life, become a better version, more in tune with who you are, and start to create something that's really on purpose, in line with who you are. So that's all I can remember to say at the moment. Probably had more that I wanted to, but that's the nature of these live calls. So I'll just wait for a minute or so if anyone's got any questions that they'd like to comment or any reflections on that. It'd be great to see those. I do offer 30-minute initial consultations called Discover Mental Health calls, which are available via my, if you go to eftnow.co.uk/meta health, you should find my page with that, but I'll put it in the comments below this video anyway. And yeah, so I will also be looking at the replays and answering any questions for the next couple of days or so. I'll be looking at those. It's been great to be here, great to be doing these live streams again. If you've got any anything that you would like me to consider doing a live stream on, that can be a specific yeah, Belize, yes, it stays. It's going to be available on my page now, and so that should be stored on Facebook for however long that may be. So yeah, happy to answer any questions, but I think that will do for now. Okay, glad. Thanks for that, Helen. I think I got through it all. So yeah, I'm going to end now, but it's going to be available certainly in the Feel Better, Heal Better group for a while. I'll probably share it in the various mental health groups as well, just to get this out there a bit more. Any questions that you've got on this or any other health matter, very happy to answer them or have a mental health analysis consultation as well. So Erin, thank you very much. Glad you're here. I'm going to end the broadcast now, and good night everybody. Hope you all have an excellent everything.